Hello, everyone. Welcome to another YNS Live with NFL Thread Pivot series. You guys know that I usually have Cynthia over here. Cynthia's actually traveling, and we wanted to come on and actually talk to you guys about some really exciting things happening with Pivot. So I'm excited to be solo here. Hello, everyone, whether you're listening on LinkedIn, Twitch, here on Fireside. Hello, Gina and others in the audience. And whether you're on YouTube, we're live on all of those platforms right now. And next week, I have a really great episode coming out for YNS Live. And I'm going to get into that. You guys are going to see that. If you're on the Fireside app, you can actually go and RSVP once I schedule that. The week after, so the 31st, we have a really special guest for the Pivot series. And the reason why it's so special, it is Cynthia Zordich's son, Michael V. And for anyone that has known their story, Michael Zordich Sr. played in the NFL for 12 years. And the Zordiches have 3 children. And so Michael V is the oldest, and then there's Alex, and then they have a daughter, Aiden. And the thing that is really, we're going to dive into, and I'm not going to give you guys too much information because I want you to be excited to watch this unfold. But what Cynthia and I really started talking about was this whole pivoting, exiting the league. How does that affect the wife or the partner? How does that affect the player? And what are the long-term effects on a family? So we started talking a little bit about, and this is why we decided to have Michael V on, but Michael played at Penn State, and then he was also he was a senior when the whole scandal happened at Penn State, and he stayed there. There's actually a movie that is created called Saving the Roar that you guys can check out. It's really, really an amazing dive of what that group of boys did to stay and keep Penn State their name because of their legacy. Michael and Cynthia, Michael Sr., they went to Penn State. So it's a really special thing for them. And then he went on and played in the NFL. And again, I'm not going to get into details because we're going to have Michael kind of lay that out. But the way he pivoted after he left the league and what that was like, hey, Dave, what that was like for Cynthia as a mother versus as a spouse. We're going to get into that because as her husband exited the league, Cynthia had written a book called When the Clock Runs Out. And it literally talks about when your time is up in the league. And that happened simultaneously. If you haven't listened, we do talk about that in our other Pivot series, the other Pivot shows. But what happens is the book and Michael's career happened at the same time. Now, if you guys have a spouse, if you have emotions, whatever it is, that's hard enough to be pivoting out of the league when your wife now wrote a book about it and you weren't ready for that. So we're going to touch on that. And then for her son, their son, Michael V, to enter the league. And then what happened to him as he exited the league, she said was such a different experience. And the experience as a mother watching your son go through the exit was just something that she never expected kind of where he went, which is a beautiful story. It's a really beautiful story. It's a very powerful story. And so that's going to be happening. And I'm going to be scheduling that today. So you guys can check it out and you can RSVP, but that will be happening on the 31st of May at 12 noon. And it's just going to be also special to see them on stage talking together. And it's a first time. No one has ever seen them kind of really discuss this. This is something that's very personal to their family, but we really believe, Cynthia and I really believe it's really important to have this message out there for the NFL, or not just the NFL, but really for professional sports families. Because again, the difference between watching your spouse, husband transition out of the league, whether it was because of an injury, whether it was their choice, or whether it was because the league didn't want you anymore because you were older. All 3 of those things do something to your mind, right? You have to get to that spot. If you guys haven't listened to the episode that we had a couple weeks ago with Joe Barksdale and his wife, Brianna, Joe chose to leave the league. And it was actually a beautiful thing. He connected with Kobe Bryant and he asked Kobe Bryant, hey, when did you decide it was time for you to leave the NBA? And what Kobe said to him was, when I was thinking about the other things more than I was thinking about the game, I knew that I was doing a disservice. And I'm not quoting, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm doing a disservice to the game. And so I knew it was time for me to leave. And Joe then went through an experience. And if you guys have not heard that story, I mean, he had a really tough life, lost a lot of people, Kobe being one of them as a mentor, and suffers from mental illness, and then was diagnosed with autism later in life. But he wanted to be an engineer. He did not want to play football. He did not want to play professional football. So that having Brianna and Joe on together is a really special thing. And we are going to be doing that for Pivot. We're going to be having partners, mothers, sons. It's going to be a different than YNS Live with NFL Thread, where we have the spouses. And so now we're just even going deeper. And so we really truly believe, thank you, we really truly believe these stories need to be heard, because one of the things, and I didn't realize that was really, as Michael V was leaving the league, and I'm not going to tell you how and why it happened because I want you guys to tune in. But when he was leaving the league, he actually looked to the league for guidance, and they had that. And all of us that are not professional athletes or in that world, we don't know what certain leagues do. You always hear kind of the negative things, how they didn't help and they didn't do this. But this is a really positive story. So, in the fact that the league really helped him kind of get to that next step and figure out what he wants to do. So we're really excited about this new series, Pivot, and bringing you guys some powerful stories. And I want to say star stories, like star, not meaning star people, but like really powerful, big stories that are going to get you thinking and making you see and think about different people's lives and different people's worlds a little bit deeper than you probably already do, which is kind of exciting. And then that will also be in the week after. We have a really great YNS Live with NFL Thread, another spouse partner. And I'm not going to even get to that because that is a really good one. That's a really good one. But these stories, we talk about this all the time. I'm actually speaking at PodFest next week about the power of storytelling for a podcast, but also for a brand. And then what social apps like a Fireside do we use that we see where we're connecting. And I think it's again, a really important thing for stories to be talked about, people to connect on a different level as the world is changing, as the workforce is changing, as people are evolving. It's really important that we stay connected and stay connected in a positive way. So hear someone's story, listen to someone's story, and then from there, you don't need to, not everyone's story is going to resonate, but we all need to be a little bit more thoughtful, a little bit more curious about what other people are going through, because we could learn and we can actually make our lives better by other people being able to share their experiences. So again, Michael Vincent Zordich and Cynthia Zordich and myself on May 31st at 12 noon. I'm going to be actually scheduling that in Fireside, the app. If you guys are not a part of Fireside and you want to be part of Fireside, find me on any of the socials. I am Juliette Hahn. I am Juliette Hahn. And you can find me and I can get you access to Fireside. But it's really cool to be able to be in the audience and experience what, firsthand, the applause, that you can ask questions. There's so many different things. Thanks, Dave. So many different things that you can do to be a part of this, but it's almost like you're in a tiny little auditorium, a live auditorium where you can get firsthand of what these stories are about, what these people are about. And watching Cynthia and Michael connect and talk about this is going to be really special. I'm actually really excited about it. And anyone that doesn't know, Cynthia and I reconnected, I should say, for my podcast, Your Next Stop. And I had her on as a guest. And the thing that is really full circle, and I talk about this on all my podcasts, all my shows, is that I truly believe that we connect with people. People come into our lives for a reason. And the reason might not be at that moment. The reason might not be like that time that you're supposed to meet that person, but down the road you're supposed to meet. And so for a little bit of the story that anyone hasn't heard, that Frankie, welcome, is that, hey, Steph, is that Cynthia Zordich and I met when I was a teenager. I actually babysat when the Zordiches were in Philadelphia when Michael Sr. was playing for the Eagles. And my mom was a kindergarten teacher, Morristown, New Jersey, Moorestown, New Jersey. It's right outside of Philadelphia. She was a kindergarten teacher. There was 5 of us. So there's 5. My maiden name is Williams, 5 Williamses. And 4 girls and a boy who's the youngest. And my mom, we babysat. So like the girls always had babysitting gigs. We were hard workers. We also loved helping people out. So my mom, families she would connect with, hey, we need a babysitter. So we were babysitting. Cynthia's sister, Tina, her family lives in Morristown and has 4 kids. My mom taught them. And so it was very quickly, it was when Cynthia, and if you guys have not heard this story, you can go to any of my, wherever you listen, whether it's Apple, Spotify, you can listen to Cynthia Zordich on Your Next Stop, which is my main podcast. And you can listen to that story of where she was in life when we connected. So I was a teenager watching this woman just move with her 3 kids to a different city because her husband was playing for the Eagles. And she was creating a brand, a business for herself because she had kind of lost herself a little bit. As we talk about many times on my series, especially with YNS Live with NFL Thread, where we speak to the spouses and the women, is if you're moving around, how do you establish your own business? And so that's where we got curious. So when I started my podcast, I decided, okay, you know what? I'm going to reach back out to Cynthia because I remember as a teenager just being like, wow, this woman is so amazing. She was taking pictures, actually, photography. That's her love for the Eagles. And so I got to see that for a number of years as I then went to college and they were still there, but we then stayed connected. So I remember Michael V when he was little, when they used to go and watch their dad play and they would come home. He always had a football in his arm, just a really beautiful family. So for you guys to be able to be front and center and front row in listening to these 2, Cynthia and Michael V, mother and son, talk about when Michael V left the NFL, the league, it's going to be a really special thing. Frankie, I'm going to have you come up and please ask a question.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Julia. Nice to meet you, by the way.
Nice to meet you as well.
Do you want me to come on camera? I don't.
Sure. Hold on one second. Let me get you.
Yeah, because then that way you don't look like you're talking to a creepy headshot. I'm actually a real person.
Creepy headshots are okay.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Good. I'm representing. No.
Yes.
No, it's really cool what you're talking about. I just jumped in, and it's funny that you mentioned being around the NFL players when you're a younger kid. And I had the same experience almost. I had season tickets for the Buffalo Bills from 87 to 93. And I got a lot of interaction because I was right above the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
And they remember you after
Yeah.
game
Seeing
after
right
game.
game. Right.
And I've always had this, I'm a mental health awareness advocate on a huge level.
Love
So
that.
I've had this, like, I don't know, I don't want to use the word obsession because that's kind of creepy. I've always wanted to get into the locker room and talk to these kids. I'm 43 years old. Okay. So these football players to me are kids
Right.
being handed millions of dollars, and they have to move around once a year sometimes if they're cut or whatever. How do they deal with that? And I've always been intrigued. How do they deal with that mentally? Because just because you got $50 million, you're not happy. But I'm just saying.
If you're not happy, well, I would love for you to listen to the one that I had for Joe Barksdale. If you can check it out on here on the Fireside app. So that was a really, Joe talks about, and he there was a few times he tried to kill himself. I mean, but the
Oh,
league actually helped him.
yeah,
He suffered from mental illness and then later in life got diagnosed with autism and didn't realize that that's
yeah,
what some of his, some of the stuff getting kicked out of school and all these different things that or camp, I shouldn't say school. But we touch on that. And so it is, and that's what fascinated me. But from a woman's point of view, and as a spouse and as a wife, for me, I was like, wait, I really want to know more about this because the whole
right,
picking up and moving, and I'm super curious. And I remember, I have 2 boys and I have a daughter, and my husband, we're big sports fans. I mean, it's always been around me. I'm, watch sports, love sports. Can't say that
high
I know all.
five.
I can't say that I know all the details. My boys right now will be like, okay, you love it, but you don't know anything
You know
about
what? You love
football.
sports. That's all that matters. You don't
Yes,
have
and
to. I mean, I'm a dork. I have 3 screens on a Sunday for football, and my iPad and my phone. Okay, my 4 pound Chihuahua is like, what is wrong with this guy?
Right.
But
But that's
I get it.
when you're into sports. And so for me, it was all of a sudden I said, I need to know more about this because we as a society put these guys on a pedestal,
Mhm.
but they're just like us. They wake up every day and put their pants on. They
I
just
got a
have
great story for you
given
too
an
about that.
opportunity, you know?
Yeah, we all bleed red, you know. I live in Buffalo, New York, and obviously the past week was not the
Yeah, I'm
greatest.
sorry. Yeah.
Well, I live 3 miles from that spot, so it touched. Even though it's 3 miles, it's close,
Yeah.
and too close for comfort. But some of the Buffalo Bills and Buffalo Sabers went down to the site, where the president went to put
Right.
flowers down, and they're just regular. You could see the real emotion, the
Yes.
real, the real, the real, and that's why, like when Antonio Brown had his little flip out when he was playing against the Jets last
Hmm.
season, took
Yes.
his jersey off. I didn't think, "What an idiot." I thought, "Something's wrong with this guy. Why are
Right.
they not helping him?"
Right.
That's where my brain went right away
Right. And that's
because
because you're touched with the mental illness. And
yeah,
that's what we dive in. So definitely please come back and join us
I
and
will.
Cynthia's usually here. As I said, she's
Alright.
traveling, but we wanted to talk about this. But she and her son, and probably just so you guys know, when we do the episodes, we don't have other people come up on stage because I'm usually
I
very,
understand.
very guarded, like, and
Sure.
now I see you and it's wonderful. But we let these guys know that this is going to be a safe space, that we're not going to just have anyone come up because you never
I
know what people are
understand.
going to do. But I just wanted to kind of throw it out there so like if you do join the next room and you're like, why isn't she calling me up? She did this time. It's for that reason. But this
Well,
is going to be a beautiful story listening to Cynthia and Michael V talk about what it was like when he left the league.
Michael
And
V, are you speaking of Michael Vick?
no, so Michael Vincent Zordich.
Oh,
So Cynthia
so you were
Zordich. Yeah.
confusing me there because he did
Yep.
play for the Eagles at one point.
Yes, he did. Yes. So they
Yeah,
have that. So, but definitely go check out my page and you can
I
listen
will.
to
Follow me
um,
as well.
Yes, please. Joe Barksdale. And then the other thing is that's kind of cool is we have a lot of the spouses. So if you are just new to getting Fireside, if you go through all mine, look, we've had Tommy Vincent, so I mean,
Oh,
we've had some really, really awesome Cookie and Holly, actually Cookie Johnson, who's obviously not an NFL player, but we had her on because we were at the Super Bowl. So you have to go through because you'll listen to
yeah.
some really cool
Well, I've
stuff.
been on Fireside since the beta. I
I
just
love that.
launched my own solo talk show, but I've been part of a whole bunch, so I'm experienced with
Welcome.
Fireside.
Yes,
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a great. That's
it's a
why I
great.
said I want to come on camera, and you know why I did that? Because I took psychology and all that and criminal justice.
Mhm.
I wanted you to see me
Right. I
now,
love that.
because you don't know who's behind my picture. So
Totally. No,
but
I
anyways,
appreciate
I
it.
I do thank you for letting me come on because, like I said, I would love to, like I said, back channel with you, even if you could give me a plug on where I could, try to, because I do interview shows with
Right.
legitimate people, and I always wanted to know and still do
Yeah. Well,
what
yep.
resources are available. So I thank you
And there
for
are a
your
lot.
time.
And if you come and listen, you can hear like especially on the 31st, Cynthia will really touch, and that's the one of the things that the league
Okay.
really helped Michael um, uh, Vincent really help him with his
Yeah.
transition. And then when you listen to Joe Barksdale, you'll hear it was the actual league and the teams that he was on that reached out and said something's not right, what is going on with you? So
Yeah.
that's the things that we don't hear as the public. We don't hear that. We
Right.
hear all the negative stuff, and not that there's a negative side and a positive side to a lot of different things,
Yeah.
but we're trying to, we're just shedding the light on stories. We're not into it to get into the politics about they didn't do
I
this,
hate
they didn't do that.
politics.
Me
Oh,
too. So we're here just to really share the
yeah.
player and the spouse and their stories, and that's what we're here for. But I totally appreciate you jumping on, and let's
Yeah.
definitely connect on the back end. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
again, Julia. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So, guys, so you can kind of see how Fireside works. Thank you again, Frankie. It's really cool because we can have the interaction. As I said, when I do our Pivot NFL Thread series, we don't have people on for the safety and not safety, I shouldn't say not safety, but for the privacy of the players and the wives that come on because they don't always know who's going to be asking questions. And they know that Cynthia and I are a safe space. But definitely check it out. I'm going to be putting those two shows scheduling the shows into my Fireside profile, and you guys can follow me there. And then again, if you're listening, I see people on LinkedIn. Welcome, welcome. I also see people on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch, which is really amazing that we can get these stories out more because of a platform like Fireside that allows us to broadcast and get our stories and other people's stories out to more people. So again, thank you everyone for joining YNS Live with NFL Thread Pivot. We will see you on May 31st at 12 noon with a very special guest, Michael Vincent Zordich, who is Cynthia Zordich's son. And we're going to talk about his transition out of the NFL and what was the difference. Cynthia is going to touch on the difference of watching her husband transition out of the league versus her child. And this is going to be a really powerful, really an amazing, I cannot wait for this episode and this story to unfold and you guys to be able to be a part of it. So again, I am Juliette Hahn. Thank you for joining YNS Live with NFL Thread Pivot, and we will see you guys on the 31st. I will be out next week, you guys, for a YNS Live episode. But again, thank you everyone that is joining, and make it a great Thursday.